And if you're listening to this as someone who doesn't refer to themselves as spiritual, the same thing applies for you. Maybe you've never pulled a tarot card in your life, but you're much better at listening to yourself than you were 5 years ago. Maybe you learn when your body says no, you need to pay attention. Maybe you've stopped forcing yourself to stay around people who leave you feeling like shit. Maybe you know you need time outside when life gets too loud. Maybe you've started noticing patterns in your own life, or perhaps you're better at recognizing when you're taking on everyone else's emotions. Maybe you trust that little feeling in your stomach now instead of immediately talking yourself out of it. You can call it intuition or energetic awareness or emotional intelligence, experience, instinct, or simply knowing yourself really, really well. And I don't really care what you call it. I care that you recognize it, because I think that's the bit that so many women miss. We're so busy looking for that next level that we don't turn around and look at the bloody mountain we've already climbed. And I want you to do something after this episode. I don't want you to overthink it or turn it into spiritual homework, where you need a spiritual journal and the perfect candle and 45 minutes of uninterrupted silence. Just think about who you were, where you were a year ago. And if a year doesn't feel like long enough, go back 3 years, 5 years, 10 years even. What did that woman believe about herself? What did she need reassurance about? What did she ignore? What frightened her? What did she think spirituality had to look like? What did she think intuition was supposed to feel like? What decisions did she struggle to make without asking everyone else first? Because that is your evidence. Maybe today you can pull a card and you can trust the message that comes through to you first. Maybe you can feel energy in a way that you couldn't before. Maybe you understand your own womanly cycles better. Maybe you've learned how to protect your energy or developed a relationship with your guide, your ancestors, the Akashic records, the moon, the land. Maybe you're practicing witchcraft openly when a few years ago you wouldn't even said the word witch out loud. Or maybe none of that applies to you, but you've learned to listen to something that feels wrong. You've become more comfortable with your own company. You notice you need to get outside and put your feet on the grass. You understand yourself more deeply, and you're finally beginning to trust that you don't always need to have a logical explanation for every single thing that you feel. Please don't dismiss that because somebody else can do something that you can't yet. And please stop taking the things that you've already learned and putting them into a box labeled, well, that doesn't count because I can do it now. Of course it bloody counts. The fact that something feels easy now might be the biggest evidence that you have of your spiritual growth. And think about the thing that you currently look at that somebody else is doing and think, God, I wish I could do that. Maybe it's mediumship or reading tarot intuitively or connecting with the Akashic records, casting spells, whatever it is. Imagine the version of you 5 years from now looking at you today. What would she think? Because I have a feeling there are things about your life now that she once desperately wanted. There are things that you do now without even thinking about it that she would have found extraordinary. There are things that you know that she was still trying to understand, and parts of yourself that you've accepted that she was still hiding. And yet here you are, looking ahead at somebody further down a completely different path and using them as evidence that you're somehow behind. You're not behind. There isn't a queue. There isn't one spiritual path with everyone standing in order, waiting to reach this enlightenment phase where someone stamps their loyalty card. We're all experiencing things. We're all learning different things, developing different gifts, and moving through different seasons of our lives. And perhaps somebody is looking at you right now and thinking, God, I wish I trusted my intuition like she does. So the next time that you hear yourself saying, I'm only a beginner, I want you to catch yourself, because I want you to ask whether that is actually true. A beginner at what? Because you might be a beginner at tarot and incredibly experienced at reading energy. You might know absolutely nothing about astrology, but have spent 40 years instinctively working with plants and the seasons. You may have never meditated for a day in your life, but have incredible relationship with your own intuition. Because maybe the reason you can't see how spiritual you are, how intuitive you are, or how far you've come isn't because there isn't anything to see. Maybe you've just been standing inside your own progress for so long that it looks completely ordinary from where you're standing right now. And I think that's what I want you to take away from today's episode, to stop measuring your beginning against somebody else's middle. Stop assuming that the loudest spiritual gifts are the goalposts. And every time you reach them, give yourself credit for the woman that you have already become. You don't have to see spirit in order to be intuitive, and you don't have to call yourself a witch in order to have a relationship with nature. Maybe you're further along than you think. Maybe you've been doing this for far longer than you realize. And maybe, rather than asking yourself what you still need to learn, today you could turn around for a moment and look at everything you've already learned along the way, because I bet it's a hell of a lot. So thank you for joining me for another episode of the Witchy Woo Podcast. As always, if you've been listening to this thinking, oh my God, she's talking about me, come and let me know. I would love, love, love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Kylie Anna. You can email me, kylie@witchywoo.net. I would so love to hear from you. And maybe send this episode to a woman in your life who insists that she's not spiritual at all, despite knowing exactly who's ringing before she picks up her phone, reading everyone's energy within 30 seconds of meeting them, and owning, 17 houseplants that she talks to every morning. You know the one I mean. So until the next time, my lovelies, keep trusting yourself, keep questioning the shoulds, and let's continue to sod those shoulds and embrace spiritual freedom. I'll speak to you soon.
Witchy Woo!